Now, if you've worked with me on dating, then you know that I have my clients make a list of 50 to 100 attributes of their perfect life partner. And people are shocked, well, 20, 30, no, 50. And you can go as far as 100. And each goal has to be positive, not she doesn't weigh, it's she weighs, and she earns, and he is whatever height. And you ask for your minimal acceptable. So if the minimal acceptable is that somebody earns a certain amount of money, you can always find somebody who earns a lot more. And the same is true about every other attribute that they have. Now, when you write this down and you get really clear and you look at it and visualize it every single day and get excited about it, again, that's what these two doctors have in common, that you must get excited about it because that's the dopamine impulse. The dopamine impulse is really essential because that's what carries you forward to take the action that you have to take in order to manifest this thing. These are scientists. These are not, gurus telling you, well, just sit and close your eyes and hope for the best. I am not a fan of that, though I have, spent, decades studying with Indian gurus. I want to make sure you understand that the really legitimate Indian gurus are going to tell you about the effort you have to make. So it's, divine grace plus self-effort. That's always the combo.
That's very clear, very helpful, Susan. Now, what is repetition compulsion, which Freud discovered?
This was really fascinating. So here's the description that Sigmund Freud and his colleagues were very confused about. The baby's in the crib. The baby has a stuffed animal in the crib. In this case, it was a toy elephant. The baby throws the toy elephant out of the crib. The baby starts to cry. Mommy comes along, takes the toy elephant, gives it back to the baby. The baby starts to laugh and giggle, plays with the elephant, and is perfectly happy. And then you know what's coming next. Then the baby throws the elephant out of the crib. So this is how we train ourselves to go through all these negative behaviors that don't work. And I want you to really think about anything you've ever done like this. Now, for example, when I was dog sitting for my dear friend Michael's dog, whose name was Baby, and she was a teacup poodle, and I had just read something about dog training, but I didn't really get, my job wasn't to train her, my job was to just watch over her and play with her. So we're in the rose garden where I used to live, and Baby's this big, and Baby's running around, and she's very well trained. I don't have to worry about having her on a leash. She's completely trained. So she's running around in a circle, and I'm yelling, Baby, Baby, and I'm running after her. And then she's running further, and I'm running, and I just stop. Well, no, this is what I read about with dog training. You never do this, because if you call their name while you're chasing them, they think that the game is that they run, you call their name, they keep running, and that's the game. And it is very much like this. It is exactly, in fact, if you think about it deeply, this. So the point is, notice your own behaviors, notice the results you get, and notice if there are things that you keep doing the same way again and again and you're not getting results, it may be this. This may be the issue. And now you know what to stop doing.
Oh, that's a great example. Now, the connection between the brain and the heart is really very confusing for many of us. Would you talk with us about how the brain affects the heart?
Well, it's really the soul that is what we're talking about here. Because people have a tendency to either listen to their emotions and not be logical. So emotions are one part of the brain, and being logical is another part of the brain. And they tend to justify it. and then they tend to suffer about it. And the real secret is to bring in another part of the brain, which is the visionary brain, which is what listens to the divine or your soul or any of those words that you may believe in if you have a very active upper right brain. If that part of your brain isn't active, then you don't listen to what I'm saying with any interest. It's boring. It sounds silly to you. Just as if you don't have a lot of logical analysis brain, if we talk about the election count, or if we talk about a medical diagnosis, or we talk about anything and just discuss the statistics, you're going to get bored with that. So the secret to the mind, brain, heart, soul connection is to understand that there are certain things in your life that must be directed from your soul. Your mind can't get you there. It just simply can't. And when you realize that, when you operate like that, and you use your whole brain, your soul, your logical analysis brain, your emotional brain, and your action brain, you are going to have a very successful life.
A lot of information there. That's a lot to absorb, but very important. What has brain research actually proven about time? And I know, Susan, that you've been teaching us about this for 10 years.
You know, I discovered some time ago that the brain doesn't make the distinction between the past, the present, and the future. And what I learned from Dr. Pillay and listening to him speak is that when you convince your own brain that something is essential, time ceases being a factor. Now, that has a lot to do with brain chemistry, and it has a lot to do with the change in the action. But the truth is, if you're a kid and your parents ask you to do something that you don't want to do, it can take you forever. But if you're reading a book that you really love, you could finish that book by staying up late and reading it by the morning, right? So there's no real sense of how long anything takes. Now think about this another way. If you have a week to do a job, it will take you a week. Have you ever experimented with this? And then if you only have 3 days to do it, suddenly it gets done in 3 days? Why is that? How is that even possible? It's because your functionality shifts. You become highly functional. You become able to do things in a completely different way, again, using more of your brain. And that's the key. So it's the self-talk where you convince yourself it's essential, it's got to be done, you must do it, and then you take action in a different way, and the results are fantastic. So I encourage you to think about something that really is essential to you, whatever it is, and really experiment, and I think you'll be amazed.
That time element. Now that we know that there is no time, and it's all about focusing on a change being essential, how do we create self-talk about this?
Well, now, self-talk is a very interesting thing, because with self-talk, you have to be specific about your goals, right? You have to only use positive words. You have to use language that's absolutely specific. So this is really my goal-reaching language. You start with by day, month, year. If you start every goal with by day, month, year, then you've nailed down that this is a reality, not a fantasy. It's not an affirmation, it's not positive thinking, it's none of that, which isn't going to get you where you need to go. It's real, it's a goal. Then, if you think very carefully about what your goal is, and you specify exactly the results you want, but I mean exactly the results you want, and you quantify them, dollars, numbers, amounts, all of that. Let's say you're in sales, so by December 31st, 2016, the fourth quarter results are $3 million and 56 cents. Just something quick, right? If you are developing something, if you're the development part of a new venture, again, by December 31st, 2016, we complete the development of the such and such widget. If you're raising money for something, by February 1st, 2017, we have $1.3 million for the such and such project. So we're talking about absolute specificity. That's the way you produce results. If it's relationship, if it's emotional, it's, every night you're going to sleep, please God, bring me my perfect life partner. He is. And then you read the attributes. This list of 50 attributes out loud. That's the way you make these things happen.
I love that. And boy, what a wonderful way to help our neural pathways in our brain with this process. Can you explain to us now about beliefs, please?
Yes, again, this is a quote. Beliefs are only neural pathways, and they are set points, and they generate actions which cause results. To some degree, your actions are driven by your beliefs and emotions, and your biases at a non-conscious level. Now, the key here is that the subconscious is about 90%. So a lot of people think that they should just give up. Okay, I wanted a boyfriend, I wanted a girlfriend, it didn't happen. I must have some deep-seated unconscious such and such because of my mother or my father or because my former relationship or whatever. And then they give up. If you give up, you're not ever going to get beyond this. So what I have found to be so successful, in addition to everything I'm saying here, everything that I've taught you about tonight, please do it, because I've done enough studying and I've done enough research and it really works. And then this basic goal reaching skill set takes you down into the subconscious. You notice that you're telling yourself a story that this can't happen. So if you're somebody who wants a lifelong girlfriend or boyfriend, and you're working with me, and you set yourself a goal with a by day month of 2016, and you notice that the first night you go to say this, it seems impossible, then what you would do is you'd send me an email and tell me what you realized, and we change the goal to something that is a reach and not impossible. And as you develop more small successes, and as you have this dopamine rush that occurs from each small success, and as you then have the thrill of telling me or your friends or me and your friends and relatives about this, and you get the oxytocin rush, it has a profound healing effect on your subconscious. And it just works. So do it because it just works.
Great formula. Now, since most of the problems live in our unconscious mind, what is the ultimate success to eliminating that stumbling block?
You, first of all, have to really commit yourself to eliminating the subconscious as a barrier. You have to do a number of different exercises that I teach to really get in touch with your subconscious. I teach something called conscious dreaming because, the purpose of dreams, many people believe, is to allow your subconscious to speak to you or your unconscious to speak to you. And that's based on Freudian therapy, obviously. And so conscious dreaming is a way for you to say to yourself, your higher self, I want to go to sleep right now, and you're going to bring me information about whatever it is, and I'm going to awaken and write it down so that I don't forget it. And then in the morning, I will have this information, and it will bring me closer to eliminating this subconscious or unconscious block. Now, we all have them. If you look at an area where you don't have the results you want, it could be money, it could be health, it could be weight, it could be relationship, it could be career, it could be all of them, right? It could be 1,000 different things that people have issues with. And the only way to eliminate those issues is by doing this inner work. Now, there are many kinds of inner work you can do, and there are many kinds that I've already done. So what I'm offering you guys is what I find to be the quickest, completely painless, and virtually effortless way. Because if you work with your brain every night before you go to sleep, remember, your brain doesn't go to sleep. Your brain is like a shark. It never sleeps. It just keeps going around and around in the ocean. So you want to harness that power. And you want to learn conscious dreaming. I recommend it. Send me an email. I'll send you the whole conscious dreaming training. And you can practice with it, and you'll see. You'll have results because you will change your beliefs, because your beliefs are only neural pathways.
Wonderful wake-ups after that. Now, and finally, Susan, what is the best reason to work very hard and improve our brains now?
Well, the alternative is just too scary, because if you don't, you know what's going to happen. So you look at Gigi and you look at me, we work our brains, we use our brains, we're committed to being healthy for decades to come, and healthy really requires that your brain is healthy, because nobody wants to be one of those people who's got one of those very, very strong physical bodies and the brain's out to lunch. That doesn't help. So you've got to work on your brain, because if you don't, your brain is going to be working on itself in the wrong way. You know, if you don't increase your dopamine, if you don't increase your brain chemistry, depression sets in. If you don't increase your neural pathways, all sorts of diseases too frightening to even mention set in. The whole point is that there are two choices. You either don't do it, you don't work it, you don't make it better, or you do. And if you don't, it's a scary, slippery slope. And the same thing is true about your body, you know. So, I mean, I know there are only 24 hours in the day, but my personal opinion, my personal belief, and if you know me, you know this is true, I work much, 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 much harder at my brain than I do at my body at this point in my life, because I think that the results I'm going to get require that I have a brain that's highly functioning.